It didn't seem that long ago that I got my first dabble at the need for speed when it comes to BMW and their sports activity coupes. That kind of SUV coupe styling that, well, threw me for a loop. Well, now this latest option has taken it to the next level. Hey, welcome to this edition of Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Roberson. Now behind me is the 2020 BMW X6 M Series, of course, competition. That means really what this is all about is what lies underneath that hood. Oftentimes when it comes to a vehicle, you could point to one signature element that really delivers what the people are looking for. But for the X6 competition, it has to be, well, the full package that really draws everyone's attention. Just a silhouette and, well, no horsepower. What's the point? Nice wheels like we see here at the four corners, but, well, no horsepower to boot. What's the point? Nice grille warfare, but nothing to take in that air that's being delivered to a modest engine. Well, what's the point? The whole point is it all starts right on the hood. But if the package downwind doesn't deliver, well, this design just simply falls flat. Now, when you think about a sports activity coupe, the real outlier is the word coupe. It just doesn't seem to fit the overall mold of this vehicle, primarily in its overall size. Now, certainly we see it in the silhouette, but other than that, well, this vehicle truly delivers when it comes to my 6'2" frame. Now, first off, starts in overall size, around about 195 inches. Wheelbase fairly stretched at 117. Width, just under 80 inches, and height is a good one, just around about 66 inches tall. And the reason for that primarily is because of great ground clearance, around about 8.4 inches. When you think of coupe, when's the last time you saw ground clearance like that? And what that equates to for someone my height is great ingress into the vehicle. I'm not a big fan of a back-bending affair, and well, this makes it so much easier. Now, when you look at design, first off, it is the silhouette. This is the signature from this profile that really sets the tone of this vehicle. Nice dual spoilers, one up here, one down here at the back, really giving it a nice aerodynamic and, of course, that sporty atmosphere. Not to mention the nice wheels at the four corners and pretty much tight body lines. But don't think this vehicle's not curvaceousness, because it definitely has some width here at the back end. Now, to throw some other numbers at you, let's talk about what's going on at the four corners. First off, the track here in the front, 66.9 inches. At the back, 66.5, probably to accommodate a little bit more wider wheel there at the rear end. Now, what we have in the front, 10.5 inches wide. At the back, 11.5. As for the tires, 295 35s in the front, 315 30s in the back, both wrapping a 21-inch wheel. Now, when it comes to airflow, we always talk about the aerodynamics of a vehicle, the sweeping around, and certainly the silhouette of this vehicle hints at that. But here at the front end, it's not about maybe the air flowing around, but mainly gobbling up. You could say this is the Pac-Man of sorts when it comes to grille warfare, specifically with all the open face grills that we see. Oftentimes, most of these are implied and give the look of, well, being open. Here on the X6 competition, airflow simply going into this vehicle. And where it starts is in the nice stylizing of the kidney-shaped grills. Nice high gloss vertical slats. None of these are adaptive. This is open port, open faced all the time. As you sweep down, nice lower fascia, but really I don't notice a lot of protruding out here at the front end, even here at the bottom. What that means is pretty much no scraping effect when it comes to curb getting too close, but really keeping everything nice and tight. But certainly lots of chiseling up and niches specifically made for these menacing front headlights. Now, diving in a little bit closer here at the headlight assembly, obviously a lot of things going on here, really giving a menacing look to this front end, almost like a trophy piece that accentuates the rest of the design. But one feature I like that BMW is doing well is delivering daytime running lights at the same time the operation of the turn signal. Now, I found this out just a few weeks ago from a viewer that basically is a regulation now that when the turn signal is in close proximity to the headlights, if it is not brighter, these daytime running lights actually have to go off. That gives it kind of that squinted look. But here on the X6, that's not a problem. This truly brighter, as you can tell, than what's going on here. So again, you don't get kind of that split personality or squinty look, but instead full operation along with the turn signal. When you talk about delivering that performance look, well, the grille warfare is one point, the dual spoilers is another, but well, this implied venting on the side just adds to the overall aggressive stance, because when you have twin turbos on the hood, well, you got to deliver at least the look, if not the actual operation. Another big feature is at the four corners with the open faced rim, really showing off those brake calipers. But this vehicle is, well, more than brawn. It also has brains, and it all starts with ingress. Now again, with the ground clearance and the overall roof height, again, my frame slides in with these, but it all starts right here at the door. And what I like is the intuitiveness behind the X6. Just simply slide your hand right here, notice you're there, open with ease. Now, one feature I did learn that this vehicle has is, instead of locking the vehicle up, you can just simply get right out, walk away, and it knows once the key's far enough away, well, you pretty much want this vehicle locked. So when I think about a coupe, I think about a weekend warrior, usually enough room for two people and some modest gear. After about 3 or 4 days, it probably isn't delivering enough to get you past that. But here on the X6, it redefines pretty much all the classification. Coupe specific, meaning, well, this is going to deliver enough room for 5 and their gear. So, well, it's no longer just a weekend. It could be, heck, a week or 2 away from the house. And where it all starts is the good old cargo area. And of course, ingress is the name of the game, and BMW delivers. First off, with easeability. Now, like we've seen on other vehicles, obviously a nice release here on the rear hatch, on the key fob, or, well, you can do the good old motion detector dance, swing your leg around, and it rises to the occasion. Now, once it's up, what you're going to see is around about 27.4 cubic feet of space. With all the seating laid flat, that's going to more than double. One thing I had to keep telling myself is that this is not a sport utility vehicle, and well, it doesn't really feel like one, doesn't look like one, but it just has so much cargo. And the only real big difference is in how the rear hatch works. This one having a lot more slope and sculpting to the back end versus a Sport Ute that's squared off and naturally doesn't look as sporty as this vehicle. But what I like is there's plenty of horizontal cargo area, really squared off as about as much as it can, and the only compromising may be when you start to go more vertical. But obviously with the raising of this glass around about this area, you can get some decent vertical height. What I do like is this fairly rigid tonneau cover that can fold into place and obviously hides all the things you might have in here after a shopping event or what have you, and naturally can flip out of the way if you have a little bit more verticalness that needs exposure. If you do need to get rid of it, you can just simply slide it forward and pull it right out. Now when you look at the overall size back here, plenty of acres, really deliver people and their cargo. We took it out for the weekend to go get a few things for the backyard, found plenty of space back here, really filled this area up as if it was a sport utility vehicle. Now what's even interesting is what lies beneath here. I call it the basement level, and it all starts with just simply a pull right here, and this rear hatch rises to the occasion. Nice supporting element here that holds it in place. What you're going to find is a nice decent storage area. This could be a place where you keep things all the time, or again, extra spacing when you need it in a pinch. In case you do need to deliver bigger items, and double the amount of space back here, really made easy with these handles on both sides, laying the second row flat in one fell swoop. And as you can tell, one flat seamless floor from front to back. Now the big conversation was the power plant under the hood, specifically a high revving twin turbo V8 engine. That's going to run about 617 horses and 553 foot-pounds of torque, also taking you from 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds. Now by the overall numbers, this vehicle doesn't measure up to feel like a coupe, but it does when you look at it. And about the only place that's going to come into play is here in the second row, maybe with ingress. Now with my overall tall frame, it's going to be a slightly bending affair, and I do have to kind of ease in just a little bit, but try that in the typical coupe, well, it's just not going to be that easy. Now what I found back here is decent overall comfort. Again, something that's just not found across traditional coupe lineups. Now what you're going to see first is a fairly low bench, knees raised just a hair, but around about 35 inches, decent leg room numbers. And what I found is really still enough breathing room between my kneecaps and this seat back. As for legroom numbers in the front, around about 40 inches. Now, as for other ergonomics, you're going to see a little bit of individualized attention here on the outer side passengers. Decent room here in the middle should you need room for a fifth. What you also find is some nice elevated center console, nice elbow support, shallow tray through here if you need to store any items, and dual cup holders that lock into place when you need them. First thing you'll notice is a huge touchscreen system up top of the dash, really with this split screen option, give you multiple views. If you want to, you can go full screen on a particular option. Real easy to navigate with swiping up and left if you interact with it with your hand, or you can use the central knob I'll show you in just a second. Now down below that is going to be one part of the tri-zone system, dual zones up front. One thing I did find on the X6 competition is the learning curve just never ends. You just seem to find something new every time I interacted with it, one being using the dual zones. Now first off, you do have individualized fan speed and temperature for both front occupants, all in the form of push buttons right through here. Just simply individually go down and up. Now one thing I've found is when you're in auto, you have less fan speed, as you can tell. Now what you'll notice is over here on the left side, you have about 5 levels when you go up and down. Here on the right, since it's not in auto, it has multiple selections, and that's really noteworthy because one time I just could not get the fan speed to go modest level until I turned this off. Then you just get tons of micro level when it comes to fan speed. As for temperature select, real easy to do, and you can control the amount of airflow coming through by simply dialing the vents down. Two more features I like on the climate control system. First off is vent selection for both front occupants individually, so the driver can select his vent choice while the passengers set theirs. Also, you'll find a singular button for heated and cooled seats versus two typically found on most vehicles. All you gotta do is just simply press it one time, then refer to the screen, and what you'll find is just a touch screen system by selecting your modes. You can also do the passenger as well at the same time. To keep everything nice and sleek, there's a covering here to hide the dual cup holders and some other operation. Just simply press it and it springs out of the way. What you will find is dual cup holders as well as wireless charging, USB connection over here, and traditional power outlet. Now one area you may spend a little bit of your extra time is really getting used to all the various operations that go on here around the gear shifter between the front occupants. Now first off, this is the control knob that goes along with the infotainment system. Real easy to use and has nice shortcuts around it to help navigate with ease. Obviously some other operations when it comes to driving. One feature I do like is the auto stop, auto start feature. You can turn that off right here. Obviously the ignition and the driving modes, as well as the exhaust on and off button here. Another one is really the gear shifter. Now it's not rocket science, but just some navigation here. Just simply push to the right to go to drive, press it again, goes into manual mode, which naturally you can use the paddle shifters on the steering wheel. I'll show you in just a second. Now if you want to go to reverse, just simply pull to the left and push up, and you go into the reverse, and you also get the surround view, which is right there on your screen. While we're on the screen, there are some features to point out: backup assistant, automatic parking, and changing the camera angles. Now to change the driving mode, just simply press the button one time and it will be activated there on the screen, and you'll toggle back and forth between road and sport. But if you do want to get off the old traditional beaten path, we'll just simply hold the mode button just down a little longer and you'll go into track mode. You could say things get serious when you're in track mode because, well, the distractions are minimal. Mainly the infotainment system goes black. You toggle over here to the gauge cluster. It's all business, really, with the RPMs there on the left side and the speed there in the middle. But pretty much when you go into track mode, well, you better be ready to harness the power. Now if you want different feels when you goes to the paddle shifter versus the old traditional, well, you have two other modes that you can select that just help enhance the overall drivability. Elbow support will be found in the form of the nice center consoles divided, almost giving hemispheres to the front occupants. Heck, everything else is divided. Why not the center console, which also find is decent storage. Once it opens up, really nice and illuminated, and as well as a nice USB connection. Now typically after a week-long test drive, I'm pretty clear on where a vehicle stands. Sport utilities, maybe how small, medium, or large they are. A sedan, well, can it haul the family? Or even a minivan, is it have a cool factor? But when it comes to this coupe-like vehicle, maybe I'm even more confused, because heck, right through here, feels quite large. Even at the back end, still plenty of room. I just can't figure out, besides the silhouette, why we even call it a coupe. But there again, when you add that twin turbo under the hood, well, I forget all about the Sport Ute and, well, think about letting my hair down. Now, as always, thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior. Keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead.